Society portrays sex as a recreational activity, as something meaningless and casual. Is this true? Or perhaps, is sex personal and sacred? Well, let's find out. Today, I'm going to talk about the value of intimacy and give you 3 reasons why sex is in fact sacred. To begin with, let's take a look at the current state of the modern world. Guys, we live in a sick and twisted society. In the most sexualized culture in history, everywhere you look, promiscuity is promoted. From music videos and songs that talk about hookups and one-night stands, to movies and TV series that display sex as something casual and infidelity as a cultural norm. Then we have the sex industry that tries to market porn as something harmless. Yet, study after study shows us how porn is damaging the innocence of men and women, especially that of young people. Pornography has become easily accessible and poisons the minds of young boys and gives them a very flawed view of women. This degrades morals, the value of sex and intimate relationships. Then we have feminism, which openly encourages women to hook up, to not protect their value, instead to have fun and be with different men, to view wifehood and motherhood as slavery. This divides men and women against one another. Each year, the divorce rate climbs. The number of children growing up in single-parent household goes up. The rate of teen pregnancy skyrockets. And there are more cases of sexual abuse and infidelity. And the common driving force behind all of these devastating societal issues is due to the increase and acceptance of casual sex. This is the price humanity pays when we advise boys and girls from a young age to experiment, sleep around, and have fun. Guys, human beings are flawed. We have a fallen nature. We are sinful. We have emotions and feelings that can mislead us, misguide us. Without discipline, without education, without God, without traditional values, men and women are lost. When you tell an entire generation that sex is nothing more than pleasure and fun, it's no surprise to see many of them turn to promiscuity. It's the most accessible lifestyle nowadays because people have had their morals degraded. A society that pressures girls into losing their virginity as soon as possible and shames them for maintaining their purity. And then a society that also encourages boys to use women for sex and move on to the next one, instead of teaching them self-control, responsibility, and leadership, is a society that does not care about the future of family, morals, or healthy relationships. This is what we're seeing in today's world. So where is the answer? Guys, sex is more than just physical intimacy. It's where we're at our most vulnerable and open. It requires a great deal of trust, closeness, and connection with the other person. Okay, sex doesn't just involve your body and her body. It involves everything, your soul, your emotions, your psyche. So sex is sacred due to the following reasons. Number 1, sex is the inception of life. Without the sexual act, none of us would be here today, right? Guys, this is why I want you to understand the raw power behind this. The fact that you can lay with a woman and create life, that is a miracle in of itself. You see, this is why if we turn back the wheels of time, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, young men and women were raised to be chaste, to abstain, to have self-control, to vet the background of their partner and choose a good spouse, to not sleep around, to give their body to one person and to stay with them. Because people have always known throughout history that sex isn't just about pleasure and fun. It can create life. And this is a responsibility that today the youth is fleeing from. With contraceptives and abortion being widely accepted, people have a way out of this responsibility that comes from having sex with the wrong person or when they're not prepared. When in actuality, if you are not ready to be a father or a mother, you should not be sleeping with someone. And you see, what is the answer here? If sex has the power to create life, then the solution is to educate boys and prepare them to be fathers and husbands. Likewise with young girls, to educate them on how to be a wife and a mother. If the youth is not prepared for these roles, it is no wonder why they're not taking sex and its power to create life as something serious. Instead, they just want to have fun, but they don't want to pay the price for their actions. And this is very dangerous. So this is the first reason why sex is sacred, because it can create life. Number 2, sex is about bonding. Okay? Sex isn't just about creating life, guys, but it's also made to bond sexual partners together. Now, the Bible tells us that the two shall become one flesh. Now, this just isn't about their bodies uniting when a man and a woman lie together, but this is because their entire lives intertwine. They now belong to one another. Now, mutually satisfying sexual exchange will naturally intensify pair bonding and forming emotional unity and feelings of closeness, right? Because bonding with someone is about forming an everlasting connection. Just take a look at the world a moment. When we see bonding for what it is, related to friendships, community, it's about having a strong sense of mutual caring, right? Intimacy, appreciation. Okay, bonding satisfies our need to belong. Now, this occurs in many ways. Look at the instance of people who share the same belief system, same heritage, same culture, same background, same religious belief, same political view. That creates a sense of kinship and unity. Okay, people live longer and have fewer problems when they have an active family life. So going back to sex, well, it's the life force that helps bind men and women together. It has always been that way throughout history. Men and women, we have an innate need for one another. We were created and made for one another. When a man and a woman lie together, they release oxytocin and dopamine during orgasm. And this is what primes them to bond. Now, when we look at research from the Medical Institute for Sexual Health, they found that casual sex leads to a decrease in this neurochemical production and interferes with the ability to pair bond. This furthermore proves my point why sex is sacred. We are only meant to give our bodies and souls to one person. It's really not meant to be for everyone. The more people you give yourself to, you end up damaging yourself. Now, what they found in their case studies was this, that repeated sexual encounters with multiple partners rewires the brain. When an individual chooses to engage in casual sex, breaking bond after bond with each new partner, the brain forms a new synaptic map of one-night stands. Now, this pattern becomes the new normal for the individual. So when and if the individual later desires to find a new permanent partner, the brain mapping will have to be overcome, making a permanent bond more difficult to achieve. This is why promiscuous people, men and women who have had multiple sexual partners, they tend to struggle to maintain healthy long-term relationships, commitments, even to maintain loyalty, because they've fried the synaptic routing in their brain. The neurochemicals are not secreting those hormones anymore, and they struggle to form attachments. Now, again, it comes back to the Bible verse I mentioned before, that the Bible said the two shall become one flesh. So every time you become one flesh with a woman, or ladies, you become one flesh with a man, and then you leave that relationship, you enter with someone else, you engage in intercourse, you leave, and you repeat that process enough times, eventually your brain is going to stop secreting those hormones, because it's going to think, what's the point? He or she keeps leaving, they're not forming any bonds anymore. This is why these people get into a pattern of promiscuity and sleeping around. They can't help themselves, they become addicted to it. Think of it like two pieces of wood are glued together. Now let's say I rip apart one of the pieces of wood, but the other one still has glue on it. And let's say I stick together a new piece of wood. I rip apart the new piece, then I add a fresh one. And I repeat that process enough times, what happens to the old piece of wood with the glue it has on it? Well, that glue eventually gets worn out. And when it's broken down, and it's not strong enough to hold and tie together to the fresh piece of wood, it falls apart. And this is the same thing with people that live this hookup culture. You can only bond so many times. And when you ruin this and you damage yourself, it's going to be near impossible to do later on when you decide to settle down. This is why promiscuous people really struggle to have healthy relationships, because the brain mapping has to be overcome, and that's near impossible to do unless you go to serious therapy or seek Christ. There's no other way around it. And quite frankly, most men and women with integrity are not going to choose to commit themselves to someone who's lived that lifestyle. So that is the second reason. The third reason why sex is sacred, it is because it is related to intimacy and vulnerability. Guys, sex has never been and will never be something casual. Without trust and care for that woman you sleep with, the sex will be no different than glorified masturbation. Hookups and one-night stands will leave you addicted to the sensation, seeking out new sexual escapades, constantly looking for ways to chase an orgasm, yet you will find that each time you engage in this activity, you will be left feeling hollow, depressed, and craving more pleasure. This never-ending cycle damages your trust and ability to feel intimacy for others. On the flip side, if you have multiple sexual encounters with the same woman, it will cause one or both of you to develop feelings. And you may very well find yourself turning a blind eye to red flags and growing closer and closer to her, despite knowing that deep down, she's not wife material. The truth of the matter is, nobody wants sex with anyone. When it comes down to it, every single woman in the world could give you sex, and you still wouldn't be satisfied. Why? Because sex with strangers is not what we are designed to crave. Partaking in the most intimate act possible with a woman that means nothing to you does nothing other than damage you emotionally, mentally, even physically sometimes. We want to feel appreciated, valued, desired, and respected by a partner that truly cares about us. And sex is the most intimate way to express these emotions. They are best enjoyed in the context of a committed monogamous relationship. This will increase your overall happiness and will satisfy the deepest parts of your masculinity. And this is why the Bible says, 1 Corinthians 7 verse 2, "Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband." 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 3, "For this is the will of God, even your sanctification, that you should abstain from fornication." We were never designed or created to just hook up and give our bodies to someone we never intended to commit to, or to someone who didn't intend to commit to us. This is why people are in so many situationships. We see so many broken relationships and marriages, and this tears families apart. It ruins lives. When men and women do not follow the will of God, they are led astray by their lust and their sin, and the consequences can be devastating, and sometimes you cannot turn back the clocks of time, and you will be left by regret, loneliness, and misery. I urge everybody listening, be chaste, abstain, and follow the will of God. There is nothing to be proud of by racking up a high-digit body count. This is what insecure, lustful, and ungodly men and women do. If you want to do that, go ahead. But just remember, no member of the opposite sex will ever take you serious as husband or wife material. Please, protect your heart, protect your body, and be very careful who you give yourself to. With that said, that's today's video. I'll be linking down below 2 previous videos I've done on pair bonding and sex and why it's important, so you can learn more about this topic. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I post videos weekly. For anybody who would like to book a coaching call, ask me any questions, or share their story with me, the email is down below in the description. And for those who would wish to learn more about my work or support the channel, you can order a copy of my book, link below in the description. With that said, hope you all have a wonderful day. God bless all of you and your families, and I'll see you all in the next one.